Friends, good morning. It is wonderful to see you on this Easter morning. My name is Sarah Lenzi, and I am the minister here at the Unitarian Society of Ridgewood. I'm joined this morning, as always, by our entire amazing Sunday service team who helps bring our community onto Zoom every Sunday. Our congregation is part of a much larger family of Unitarian Universalist congregations, all of which are committed to diversity in our theology, in our personhood, in our histories, and in our self-expression. Our non-creedal faith does not demand a particular belief about God or the cosmos, but it does ask us all to deepen our understanding of our interdependence and of the love that is possible in this world we share. Each of us who gathers here or in UU congregations across the country and the world relates differently to the ultimate, the mystery, the divine, the holy, the transcendent. Each of us relates differently to historical religious figures, including to Jesus, whose story we share today. Whatever your history with or belief about this particular holiday, we welcome you to our joyful celebration this morning. Bring your open hearts and minds, your souls that yearn for a reminder of all there is to rejoice in these times. If you're joining us for the first time this Sunday, a special welcome to you. We're so glad you found our community. Please fill out the Google form. There'll be a link dropped into the chat, or you can visit our website at uuridgewood.org. You can also email our congregational administrator, Anne, at usr.membership1@gmail.com. That will also be in the chat. Anne can also help any of you who've been attending for a while and are ready to become official members. A reminder this morning that we continue to collect on Reeb Porch. This month, we are collecting menstrual hygiene products. Our reproductive justice team is spearheading this, and they are collecting new, smaller quantity, unopened menstrual products, but please no tampons. These can be dropped at Reeb Porch, that's the yellow 113 Cottage Place, anytime throughout the week, and they'll be collected to be distributed. Thank you for joining us this holiday morning. It is good to be with you.
Now come, take a deep breath and listen. With these breaths, we sink into our time together. With these breaths, we bring ourselves here to this moment. We cultivate stillness, open to meaning and wonder, and allow ourselves to imagine what it is to be changed, renewed, transformed. With these breaths, we become present to one another. With these breaths, we are connected beyond space and time. Take a deep breath and listen.
Please join us in the words for lighting the chalice. They can be found on your screen. We light this chalice for the light of truth, the warmth of love, and the energy of action as we gather together in the circle of community.
It is Easter morning. Around the world, folks will remember the man named Jesus who lived 2 millennia ago. This was a man who taught many truths to the world, that love matters, that kindness and compassion matter, that people deserve second chances, that we can be renewed, redeemed in ourselves and in our world. The story of this holiday began truly last Sunday, when the narration tells us Jesus entered Jerusalem, welcomed by followers with palm fronds waving, welcomed by rejoicing. And though the week leading up to today, many things happened to Jesus through that week. Monday finds him railing against the hypocrisy and lies as he overturns tables and brandishes a whip at folks in the temple. Tuesday finds him preaching love and compassion. Wednesday, he rests. And by Thursday, he's preparing for the Passover meal with his friends and followers, and they eat together. At that meal, Jesus acknowledges that he knows what fate will befall him, and later that evening, he goes to the garden to pray. On Friday, he's arrested, convicted, mocked, murdered, and laid to rest in a tomb. The week is full. And through it, the stories show a Jesus that knows not only how to preach love and kindness and forgiveness, but also a Jesus that doubts, gets spitting mad, and longs for a different fate than the one he's been given. After being laid in the tomb, Jesus then rises, the story says. That's what's celebrated today on Easter Sunday. It is women, Mary and some others, who come to the tomb to visit him and instead find the large stone rolled away, the tomb empty, and there an angel who informs them that Jesus is not where they thought he'd be. 2,000 years later, and we are telling this story, a story of love and pain, of hope and promise, of what in us humans can remain eternal. We tell this story even in circles that don't believe in a literal bodily resurrection, because we know that it is through winter that we come to spring. It's through darkness that we come to the light. It's from hopelessness that we arrive at hope. With this knowledge comes the belief that every person has within them the possibility of redemption, transformation, new beginnings. With this knowledge comes the belief that we can offer these to each other. Today is a joyful day because it reminds all of us that there are possibilities beyond our human understanding, and that each and every one of us can be part of renewing the world. Let us celebrate this morning all that is possible, all that might yet be, all that is contained within each and every one of us, holy children of humanity.
Please join us in our hymn, the Jazz Alleluia, number 1050. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia.
Good morning. Today, we have a not exactly Easter story entitled After the Fall by Dan Santet. My name is Humpty Dumpty. This was my favorite spot, high up on the wall. I know it's an odd place for an egg to be, but I loved being close to the birds. Then one day I fell. I'm sort of famous for that part. Folks called it the Great Fall, which sounds a little grand. It was really just an accident, but it changed my life. Fortunately, all the king's men managed to put me back together. Well, most of me. There were some parts that couldn't be healed with bandages and glue. After that day, I became afraid of heights. I was so scared that it kept me from enjoying some of my favorite things. I walked past the wall every day, and I would think about climbing that ladder again. I really did miss the birds and being high above the city, but I could never do it because I knew that accidents can happen. I eventually settled for watching the birds from the ground. It wasn't the same, but it was better than nothing. Then one day, an idea flew by. Making planes was harder than I thought. It was easy to get cuts and scratches. But day after day after day, I kept trying and trying until I got it just right. This plane that I was making, my plane was perfect and it flew like nothing could stop it. I hadn't felt that happy in a long time. It wasn't the same as being up in the sky with the birds, but it was close enough. Unfortunately, accidents happen. They always do. I almost walked away again. But then I thought about all the time I'd spent working on my plane and all the other things I'd missed. I decided I was going to climb that wall. But the higher I got, the more nervous I felt. I didn't want to admit it. I was terrified. I didn't look up. I didn't look down. I just kept climbing, one step at a time, until I was no longer afraid. Maybe now you won't think of me as that egg who was famous for falling. Hopefully, you'll remember me as the egg who got back up and learned how to fly. The end.
Morning. My name is Rose Castillo-Leon. Happy Easter. And I am a member of the Board of Trustees. Part of laying the groundwork for the future of our congregation is making our weekly offering that helps to sustain the work of this community. We know that we benefit from those who have gone before. Generation of folks just like us who believed in community, in justice, in transformation, and in the healing power of love. They gave so that we might together belong to and build this supportive and sustaining community. Generations after us will still need to fight for liberation and equality for all. They will still need to provide their children with the experiences that help them grow into themselves. They will still need a place to go, to be reminded of their highest aspirations and affirmed in their wholeness. Our giving now ensures the future of this congregation for years to come. This community exists because of you, and it will survive because of you. Your passion, your time, your talents, and also your donations. Whatever you are able to give, we are thankful for your generosity. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
An April day. On such a day as this, I think. On such a day as this. When earth and sky and nature's world are clad in April's bliss, and balmy zephyrs gently waft upon your cheek a kiss. Sufficient is it just to live, sufficient is it just to live on such a day as this, on such a day as this. Such a day as this, I think. On such a day as this, when earth and sky and nature's world are clad in April's bliss, and balmy zephyrs gently waft upon your cheek a kiss. Sufficient is it just to live. Sufficient is it just to live on such a day as this, on such a day,
Our reading this morning is selections from Matthew 27 and 28. We join the story of Holy Week after Jesus has been crucified. Sitting down, they kept watch over him there, and they put up over his head the accusation written against him. This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. Then 2 robbers were crucified with him, one on the right and another on the left. And those who passed by blasphemed him, wagging their heads and saying, "You who destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. If you're the Son of God, come down from the cross." Likewise, the chief priests also, mocking with the scribes and elders, said, "He saves others, himself he cannot save. If he is the King of Israel, let him now come down from the cross and we will believe him. He trusted in God, let him deliver him now if he will have him, for he said, 'I am the Son of God.'" Even the robbers who were crucified with him reviled him with the same thing. From noon until 3 in the afternoon, darkness came over all the land. About 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And some of those standing there heard this. They said, "He's calling Elijah." And when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in 2 from top to bottom. The earth shook, the rocks split, and the tombs broke open. As evening approached, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who had himself become a disciple of Jesus. Going to Pilate, he asked for Jesus's body, and Pilate ordered that it be given to him. Joseph took the body, wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, and placed it in his own new tomb that he had cut out of the rock. He rolled a big stone in front of the entrance to the tomb and went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were sitting there opposite the tomb. After the Sabbath, at dawn on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to look at the tomb. There was a violent earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven and, going to the tomb, rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothes were white as snow. The guards were so afraid of him that they shook and became like dead men. The angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He is not here. He has risen just as he said. Come and see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples, he has risen from the dead and is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him. Now I have told you." So the women hurried away from the tomb, afraid yet filled with joy, and ran to tell the disciples. Each Sunday that we gather together, we make time for quieter, slower speech. Time that offers us room to breathe deeply, to reflect, to pray, to meditate as is meaningful to us. We know that this time spent together, letting our minds and hearts move toward the most important things in our lives, creates a sense of community, even if we are physically apart. I invite you to find as comfortable a position as you can for your body in your space. Close your eyes if that feels safe and helps minimize distractions, or focus your attention on the images on your screen. Take a deep breath in slowly through your nose, and let it out slowly through your mouth. Breathe in and out and relax your body. Unclench your jaw, roll your shoulders back, let your fingers and toes relax. Feel your body come into this time. Focus on your breathing as it moves in and out. Feel the oxygen reach deep into your muscles. With each breath, your body performs its own miraculous cycle. In and out, in and out. When the cycle ends, it begins again. Breathe deeply. Breathe slowly. All things change. We humans know this. We watch this in ourselves and in the world around us. And there is a blessing in this truth. It means that we can start again. We can ask forgiveness and find it, offer forgiveness and create possibility. It means that even oppression and cruelty one day will shift, and compassion and justice can rush in. Breathe deeply. This morning, we honor the cycle of promise and possibility. We recognize the joys and sorrows of our lives and of this world. We lift our hearts in compassion and empathy with those who continue to contend with COVID, with those who have lost beloved family and friends. The grief recognizes no borders, no differences between us. We are united in sorrow. We let our hearts feel the challenge of uncertainty, the fear that comes with not knowing what is next, the anxiety of wanting it to be over, the joy of vaccination, but the lack of clarity about our timeline. We are united by questions. We sit with grief as we continue to watch our world and continue to know the hurts of racism and prejudice, of anti-Asian hatred and of misogyny, of the gun violence that seems never ending. We are united in heartbreak. And even as we sit with sadness and uncertainty and heartbreak, even as we have sat with them for so long, we also sit with the deep and abiding awareness that there is so much to be grateful for. That beauty still abounds, that there is hope and love, and that life is precious. We lift our hearts together in gratitude for the healthcare workers, the scientists and researchers, the delivery people and postal workers, the grocery clerks and transit workers and teachers, and so many others who have spent the past 13 months dedicated to our collective survival, often at great personal peril and with little to show for their efforts. We give thanks for the family, friends, and communities that have held us, helped us feel a bit less lonely, helped us overcome those most difficult moments, that have reminded us over and over that things change and there will be a time to roll away the stone and emerge once more into the sunshine. There is cause for joy. Flowers are blooming. Waters are running clear. Light brightens our world. Babies are being born. People are getting well, and a new day dawns each morning. Breathe deeply and slowly, and let yourself know joy. Breathe deeply and slowly, and know that we are united by hope, by life, and by love. With each breath, may we deepen our commitment to our shared human endeavor, and may we deepen our resolve to find beauty and to rejoice each and every day. So may it be.
This reading is by Sarah Moores Campbell. In the tomb of the soul, we carry secret yearnings, pains, frustrations, loneliness, fears, regrets, worries.
In the tomb of the soul, we take refuge from the world and its heaviness.
In the tomb of the soul, we wrap ourselves in the security of darkness.
Sometimes this is a comfort, sometimes it's an escape.
Sometimes it prepares us for experience. Sometimes it insulates us from life.
Sometimes this tomb life gives us time to feel the pain of the world and reach out to heal others. Sometimes it numbs us and locks us up with our own concerns.
In this season, where light and dark balance the sky, we seek balance for ourselves.
Grateful for the darkness that has nourished us, we push away the stone and invite the light to awaken us to the possibilities within us and among us. Possibilities for new life in ourselves and in our world.
Throughout much of my life, I spent time on Cape Cod. Out there, at least traditionally, liquor stores were called package stores. And many, if not all, had these signs, redemption around the back, with big giant arrows directing you to the back of the shop. Now, of course, this meant bring your bottles around the back to get the deposit change, bottle redemption. But me being me, I was always tickled by these signs. And I like to imagine that somehow back behind that liquor store, perhaps redemption of another kind was waiting. Just recently in the New York Times, there was an opinion piece titled "The Unsettling Power of Easter." Written by Esau Macaulay, it explores how we often focus on the wrong part of Easter. Macaulay writes, quote, "There are two Easters that struggle alongside each other. One is linked closely to the celebration of spring and the possibility of new beginnings. It's the show that can be church on Easter. The other deals with a disturbing prospect that God is present with us. His power breaks out and unsettles the world. We like to imagine the story of the first Easter as the first of the two, a celebration of possibility. We would be wrong," end quote. The very first Easter, at least, Macaulay says, was filled with fear, uncertainty, and a great unsettling power. The gospel stories do indeed tell of how Mary and some other women went to the tomb to mourn their beloved Jesus. Instead, they find an angel there, the stone rolled away and an empty tomb. Not unlike the moment when the angel announces Jesus' birth to the fearful shepherds, this angel, at least in Matthew's account, tells the women not to be afraid and to go spread the word to the rest of the followers. Of course, the women were upset. Anyone would be. The sensible reaction would be to assume that grave robbers had laid waste to the tomb, and then to be told that, in fact, your dead beloved has arisen and will be walking among you. They are, Matthew says, afraid, but filled with joy. Macaulay goes on to write, quote, "We know what to do with grief and despair. We have a place for it. We have rituals that surround it. Hope is much harder to come by." The women did not go to the tomb looking for hope. They were searching for a place to grieve. They wanted to be left alone in despair. The terrifying prospect of Easter is that God called these women to return to the same world that crucified Jesus with a very dangerous gift: hope in the power of God, the unending reservoir of forgiveness and an abundance of love. It would make them seem like fools. Who would believe such a thing? End quote. Indeed, can you imagine the reception they must have received? A bunch of women claiming that Jesus is risen from the dead, women claiming it in a world dominated by men. And not only that he had risen from the dead, defying everything anyone knew about human living, but also with this knowledge that the man who the story says rose was a common man, an itinerant preacher, a poor carpenter's son who was killed in an ignominious way. Jesus was in many ways unexpected. He was one among many miracle workers roaming the cities of his day, one among many who thought they knew the way and tried to tell others. Born in a barn to an unwed Jewish mother in the Roman Empire. In the context of his world, Jesus was, in many respects, an outsider. One of the messages that gets lost when we talk about Easter as the resurrection of the kingly Son of God is that it is a story of an outsider who changes the world. It's a story of unlikely transformation from an unlikely source. Redemption around the back, not up front in some obvious way, not here among the powerful and the elite, around the back, where maybe the shadows are lurking and it feels a little scary. Around the back, where we have to try and trust and explore something new, where grief and longing and pain are very real. where the human condition is not shied away from or pushed aside by wealth and power, but where life and death go hand in hand and honest love binds. Salvation often isn't pretty. It doesn't always come neatly tied with a bow brought to us on golden platters by anticipated faces. The work of redemption and salvation is messy and hard. It challenges us, asks us to change, to transform. Jesus overturned those tables in the temple. He wielded a whip. He spoke revolution against the structures of his day, all too like our own, that kept folks separate and in pain. He healed folks others wouldn't touch. He sat with women others thought should be shunned. He forgave and he listened and he spoke and he built community across lines that his world never wanted crossed, because power maintains power by sowing division. Recently, Lil Nas X, a young, talented, and out gay artist, dropped a new music video. The song is called Montero, and then in parentheses, Call Me By Your Name. I encourage you to Google this later, watch the video, though please know in advance, the video is somewhat sexual and may contain imagery that some find challenging. Challenge can be good. The lyrics also contain profanity. The lyrics are about a lover who remains in the closet, the difficulty of such a relationship and the pull that brings one back again and again. The video, though, the video is filled with religious imagery. It begins with Lil Nas X in a reimagined Garden of Eden, where a sort of Adam and Eve seduction by a serpent occurs, but one that overturns all those heteronormative conventions folks have been fed for millennia based on some notion of Eve as sinner and of male and female as the only proper pairing. The camera pans past the tree of knowledge, which is inscribed with Greek, quoting famous lines from Plato's Symposium that proclaim that humans search for their other half that's been divided from them, a line that has historically spoken to LGBTQ communities. The video then transitions into a Colosseum of Rome type space, where Lil Nas X is shackled and seemingly stoned by the crowds who jeer, invoking perhaps early martyrdom of Christians in the Roman Empire. Lil Nas X begins to ascend to heaven and meets a shadowy winged creature that some believe to reference the Greek mythological figure Ganymede, another reference to homosexuality. Lil Nas X doesn't quite make it to Ganymede. Instead, a pole appears and he grabs the pole and essentially pole dances down into hell. In thigh-high boots, Lil Nas X struts right up to the devil, passing this time a Latin inscription that reads, "They condemn what they do not understand." Up until this point, over and over in the video are references to mythology or works of philosophy that have been used in queer thought, or that have ties to the development of either the normalizing of same-sex relationships or the demonizing of such relationships. The video invokes all manner of LGBTQ references that will take scholars a lot more time to thoroughly and successfully unpack. But the climactic scene occurs when Lil Nas X reaches the devil, a stoic, unmoving presence. And Lil Nas X gives the devil a lap dance and eventually moves to stand behind the devil so that he can snap the devil's neck and steal the crown. The video is filled with gorgeous imagery and overt queerness and sexuality. And you can imagine that in the week since it was released, there have been scores of pearl-clutching laments and choruses of resounding praise. And it is, of course, not by accident that the video was released during Holy Week. I've watched it many times in the last bunch of days, thinking about its layers, sitting with the parts that challenge me, wondering about how others in my life might see this video, wondering how you all might have felt if I had showed it here this morning. I suspect that I will sit with it for many more weeks to come, but This week, as I considered Jesus's last days on earth, what resounded over and over for me was the idea that redemption, transformation, liberation, freedom, our redemption, our transformation, our liberation, our freedom, these come from unexpected places. They don't come from places of power and privilege. They don't come from easy walks in the front door. They come from the depths, from the hard places, from the marginalized and the outsider and the other. Our collective redemption from the ills that still plague us, the ills that even Jesus ranted about and preached on and begged people to change. Our collective redemption from greed, meanness, individualism, oppression, tribalism, racism, our collective redemption from these sins is not likely to come from those of us with the most privilege. It will come from the leadership of LGBTQ folks, BIPOC, AAPI, women, the poor, the disenfranchised, and the oppressed. Only when every single person is free, only when every single person knows that their wholeness is safe and welcomed and loved in this world, will any of us be truly free. And for many of us who sit with privilege, the necessary change and redemption feels too hard to self-generate. And that leads to a cruel and onerous irony that those who have been oppressed also bear the burden for the liberation that will free us all. But we all have a role to play. Jesus didn't operate alone. We who claim to believe in freedom and liberation, we who claim to want to bend the arc toward justice, part of our work is to recognize those who will transform this world when they come, and to not be among those who condemn, but among those who welcome them with palm fronds and listen to them on mountainsides and prevent them from being staked to a cross by the powers in charge. We who believe in liberation and freedom have to be there, standing up, being counted, and that means paying attention, not dismissing truth when it comes. It means stepping back from our own positions of power and privilege and looking for and finding and supporting the voices of resurrection, whether they come packaged in ways with which we are comfortable or whether they challenge us. Redemption and liberation happen in community. These are not solitary acts. They weren't 2,000 years ago, and they are not today. We Unitarian Universalists largely don't believe in the literal bodily resurrection of Christ, though some may. But we believe in the truth that lives in myth and story. The truth in the Easter week story is that change is possible. The truth is that too often we humans don't want it, and so we reject it. But it is possible, and it will come again and again to invite us into living differently. We Unitarian Universalists also largely don't believe that humanity is inherently sinful or fallen. We don't believe in a hell in which we will pay penance for all eternity. The Adam and Eve story is, as my oldest child said the other night, one of success in which humans gained knowledge. How could that be bad? It's not a grievous act against God, it's the elevation of humanity. For Unitarian Universalists, redemption is not redemption from some imagined slight against God that has stained our souls. It's redemption from our own most sinful impulses. It's redemption from humanity's worst self, as individuals and as a collective. We all need redemption, though we might be more comfortable with language like, we all need transformation or change or justice, beloved community, a better world. But in the end, we are talking about redemption, second chances to get it right, resurrection. There's another lesser known part of the Easter story that's largely extra scriptural. It's called the harrowing of hell. The story goes that after being entombed and then resurrected, before reappearing on earth to his disciples, Jesus descended into hell. And there he brought out the righteous, the prophets, the sages, those who lived before him and whose lives were deserving of redemption. He brings out the just. The rest of humanity pre-Jesus is left there in hell. It's a troubling scene if you take universalism seriously. Given the chance to destroy hell and redeem everyone and everything, Jesus leaves folks behind and leaves the devil in place. Watching the moment in Montero when Lil Nas X places the crown on his own head, I could not help but think about the harrowing of hell. Because while redemption comes from unexpected places, from the margins and the outside, it is also the case that in spite of a million reasons to flip the script and make life hell for the privileged oppressors, the stated goal of racial justice, of feminism, of liberation, and of freedom is freedom for everyone. For everyone. The goal is not reversed oppression, it's true justice and equality. It's redemption, new life, a new world, beloved community for every single one of us. So when I watched the crown go on his head, me being me, my thought was, there goes hell. This young queer Black man has shattered hell and brought redemption to all in the world of this video. And that, my friends, is what we need in our world. We need to shatter the hell that we make with our othering and our lines and our borders and our cages and our walls and our violence and our warmongering. We need to shatter the hell that we make with wild wealth inequality and a lack of social care and judgment of people's gender expressions and sexuality and reproductive choices. We need to shatter the hell that is racism and religious prejudice and small-mindedness and feckless treatment of this planet we share. We need to shatter the only real hell, the one we make for each other. And in its place, we need to build up community, care, compassion, love. Easter is unsettling because it is a story that defies conventions. It takes us into the depths of despair and offers us surprising and unexpected redemption. Not redemption from being human. We will always be joyously, troublingly, mortally human. But it offers us possible resurrection from the worst of ourselves into the best of ourselves, into our true names, our full wholeness, the promise of us inherent in each joyful lifting of our voices. This year, may the Easter story surprise you, confound you, call you to look for the voices of resurrection and redemption alive in this world right now. And may it bring you joy. So may it be. Alleluia.
Please join us in singing our hymn, Alleluia, Alleluia, number 367. We will do it through twice. Alleluia, 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 sing and rejoice. Alleluia, 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 sing and rejoice. Sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice. Alleluia, 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 sing and rejoice. Alleluia, 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 sing and rejoice. Sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice.
Please join us in the words for extinguishing the chalice. They can be found on your screen. We extinguish the flame but may the light of truth, the warmth of love, and the energy of action burn bright in our hearts until we are together again.